Have you ever felt like the world around you grew quieter as you aged? As if, suddenly, your stories no longer mattered as much as if conversations dwindled. Visits became rare and the feeling of being on the sidelines grew stronger each day. But what if I told you there's a simple yet powerful way to turn the page? That there's a path to transform loneliness into companionship, fear into trust, and empty days into moments of joy? Today, you'll discover why growing old together is far better than growing old alone, and how being part of a community can be the key to living with more health, purpose, and love. Welcome to your new beginning, the invisible pain of loneliness. You don't have to be completely alone to feel loneliness. In fact, many older adults spend their days surrounded by others, family, neighbors, caregivers, yet still experience a deep loneliness that goes unnoticed by those around them. This invisible loneliness is a silent pain that eats away from within, and few can see it because it's not about physical absence, but the absence of true connection. As we grow older, our social circles often shrink. Friends drift away, family members become busy with their own routines and problems, and health changes make socializing harder. All of this creates an invisible barrier that slowly pulls a person away from real interaction, turning once vibrant moments into long, empty hours. And this chronic loneliness isn't just emotional suffering, it has serious physical effects on the body. Numerous scientific studies have proven that constant loneliness can be as harmful to health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases the risk of heart disease, accelerates cognitive decline, and weakens the immune system, leaving the body more vulnerable to infections and other illnesses. Social isolation is linked to depression, anxiety, and even a higher risk of early mortality. It's a condition that affects not just the mind but the entire body, as if the lack of affection were a slow poison eroding life. But fortunately, there's an answer to this pain: belonging to a community. And not just any community, a real one, where feelings of welcome, belonging, and mutual importance are genuine and tangible. Being part of a social group, whether friends, family, neighbors, or community activities, creates a support network that can profoundly transform quality of life. When you're part of a community, even a small one, every simple gesture gains meaning. Hearing a sincere good morning, being remembered in a tough moment, feeling that someone truly cares about you, that your well-being matters to more people than you realize. These small bonds are what make loneliness fade and give life new meaning. Beyond that, belonging to a group also brings a sense of purpose. When you know you can contribute, that your presence makes a difference to someone, that your stories, wisdom, and time are valued, it all strengthens self-esteem and emotional health. Feeling useful and connected is one of the greatest antidotes to the sadness and sense of worthlessness many face as they age. So even on days when everything feels difficult, seek opportunities to be around others. It could be through activity, groups, discussion circles, churches, clubs, associations, or simply informal gatherings with neighbors and friends. It's not just about filling time, it's about nurturing human relationships that nourish both body and soul. The invisible pain of loneliness only begins to fade when we allow ourselves to be seen, when we accept that we need each other. Growing old together isn't just about companionship, it's a vital necessity for our physical, mental, and spiritual health. So remember, you matter, your place exists. And community may be the missing embrace that helps life flourish, even in the hardest moments. Never underestimate the transformative power of a sincere human connection. The strength of a caring glance. Sometimes it's not a long conversation that changes our day. Not practical help, a gift, or even a compliment. Sometimes all we need is a glance. But not just any glance, one that truly sees, that notices our absence, that looks beyond appearances. A glance that says without words, "I see you." In old age, this kind of glance becomes rarer. The rush of modern life pushes people into their own bubbles, everyone caught up in their own problems, deadlines, distractions. And slowly, the elderly fade from the social landscape. They become invisible. They walk down the street, and no one notices. They go days without contact, and no one realizes. And what hurts the most isn't the silence, but the feeling that their presence doesn't matter. This is why community life has such healing power. In an environment with real connections, absences don't go unnoticed. If you miss a gathering, someone asks about you. If you stay quiet, someone notices your silence. If you fall ill, you don't have to ask for help, it comes to you. Because you belong. You are part of something. The most beautiful part? Often, care begins with a simple glance. A glance that carries history, empathy, that connects hearts without the need for words. The strength of this caring look is transformative, because it restores something essential, the certainty that we still matter, that we are still seen. In a true community, each person is seen for who they really are, with their scars, their pain, their victories. There is no judgment, only acceptance. No hurry, only presence. And that presence is a form of love. Remember the last time someone looked at you with genuine attention? That look that makes you lower your guard, that invites you to speak without fear. That glance has therapeutic power. It reminds us that we still belong to this world. And in old age, belonging is more valuable than any medicine. In strong communities, bonds aren't formed just by proximity, but by listening, by paying attention, by noticing the little things. When someone sees you got a haircut, that you're quieter than usual, that your smile was different. These small observations are windows of affection that let the soul breathe. And it doesn't take much. Sometimes it starts with a heartfelt, "Are you okay? I missed you yesterday. I thought of you when I heard this song." A simple gesture, but one that builds a bridge between isolation and connection. For many older adults, this kind of bond is the difference between living and merely existing. It's what motivates them to get out of bed, to dress up, to leave the house, because they know someone is waiting for them, that there are attentive eyes and hearts willing to listen. This invisible strength of a caring glance is what gives meaning to the word community. It's what turns a group of people into a place of belonging. And you deserve that. You deserve to be in a place where you're seen, heard, valued, where your name is remembered with warmth, not just written on a medical chart. So if you don't have this kind of group yet, seek it out. And if you do, nurture it. Pay attention to absences, to silences, to sad glances. Because sometimes, you might be the caring glance that changes someone's day or even their life. Because when someone truly sees you, you begin to see yourself again. And that, my friend, is the first step to blooming once more. Community is healing. Have you ever noticed how the body responds differently when the soul is at peace? When we feel loved, heard, embraced, even pain seems lighter. It's no coincidence. It's biology. Our bodies react to how we live, who we live with, and most importantly, who we live for. And that's why community can be a form of healing, not the kind that comes in pills, but in gestures, presence, and care. For a long time, medicine focused only on physical symptoms, high blood pressure, joint pain, diabetes, insomnia. But recent studies point to something many older adults already knew. Even without a degree, health begins in relationships, when you're part of a group that values you, listens to you, welcomes you. Your body responds, your heart rate slows, your immunity strengthens, your breathing calms, your sleep improves. It's as if the soul tells the body, you are safe, you are cared for. And the most beautiful part? This doesn't require luxury or grand structures. It can happen in a sewing circle, a church choir, a community cafe. What matters is the feeling that you belong, that you're more than a number or an age, you're a living story. someone who is missed, someone who has value. In a true community, problems don't disappear, but you no longer carry them alone, and that changes everything. When pain is shared, it weighs less. When joy is divided, it multiplies. This simple yet profound dynamic is what we call community healing. And this healing goes beyond emotions. It shows in real, measurable ways. Older adults who are part of communities live longer and better. They have lower rates of depression, fewer falls, fewer health complications, and most importantly, they have more will to live. Because they know their days still matter, that there are still gatherings waiting for them, stories still unfolding, and they are part of it. In contrast, prolonged isolation weakens the body. Those who live alone often get sick faster, take longer to recover, feel more pain, more insecurity, more sadness. And this pain doesn't show up in blood tests, but it's there in the dimness of the eyes, in the struggle to get out of bed, in the silence that fills the house. So if there's a powerful, free, and accessible remedy most doctors don't prescribe, it's called community, and it's within your reach. You can start small. A phone call to an old friend, a walk with neighbors. Signing up for an activity at the local community center. What matters is taking the first step. Being in community isn't about losing your individuality. It's about enriching it. It's bringing the best of yourself to combine with the best in others. It's creating bonds that support, uplift, and inspire. And if today you're in pain or feeling weary, maybe this is your chance to let yourself be cared for. To make space for new encounters, new conversations, new embraces. Remember, healing isn't always found at the pharmacy. It's in the person who calls you by name. In the circle where your story is heard with respect. In the afternoon when you laugh until your stomach hurts, even if you're not sure why. Because in the end, what truly heals isn't what enters our body. It's what touches our heart. When sharing is the best medicine, some pains don't show on the body, but they weigh on the shoulders, they weigh on the soul. And as the years pass, these pains pile up. They're losses that weren't mourned enough, grudges never spoken aloud, memories that tighten the chest in the silence of the night. Many older adults carry an entire world inside them, but no longer have anyone to share it with. And when we don't share what we feel, it doesn't disappear, it festers. What few realize is that speaking is also healing, opening up, telling an old story, remembering, hearing someone say, "I went through that too." These moments of exchange, as simple as they may seem, are true medicine for the soul. And the most fertile place for this to happen is within a community. Have you ever noticed how a conversation with friends can completely change your day? How, after coffee with good company, even back pain seems to ease a little. It's no coincidence. It's connection. It's the heart saying, "Now I'm not alone." In old age, this exchange is even more powerful, because by then, life's scars have accumulated. When the body begins to show signs of time, but the mind still has so much to offer, and it's in this space of companionship, of genuine sharing, that these stories become balm, not just for the one telling them, but for the one listening to. Imagine someone who lost their lifelong partner. Grief settles in, and what they often hear is, "Be strong, life goes on, that's just how it is." But these phrases don't heal. They only tighten the silence. Now, imagine that same person in a group where another woman says, "I lost someone too, and I also thought I wouldn't make it. But look, I'm here, and I'm learning to smile again." That simple exchange can make the heart breathe again. Sharing is the best medicine because it brings meaning. When you share your story, you turn your pain into a bridge. You let others learn from what you've lived. You stop being just a survivor and become a teacher. And the most beautiful part? You begin to realize that what you went through, even what hurt the most, can help someone. It can comfort. It can illuminate. And that awakens a healing feeling, usefulness, the certainty that Your life still impacts, still inspires, still transforms. In real communities, there's no need for masks. You can be who you are, with your longings, your flaws, your lessons. And the more you allow yourself to be seen, the deeper the connections grow. It's a beautiful cycle. The more you share, the more you heal. And the more you heal, the more you can help heal others. So never underestimate the power of your story, of your perspective, of your listening. Because a word spoken at the right time might be the thread someone needed to keep going. And you don't need to know what to say. Sometimes just being present is enough. Being willing to listen, to look into their eyes, to offer the silence of someone who embraces, not judges. Because in the end, it's not about fixing someone else's pain. It's about saying, with all your heart, I'm here. And you don't have to go through this alone. The purpose born from belonging. Many believe purpose is something grand, something achieved through status, degrees, great accomplishments. But in truth, real purpose lives in simple things. In what makes the heart beat calmer. In what gives you a reason to get out of bed. Even on days when the body begs for rest, and especially in old age, this purpose is reborn when we feel we belong. Have you ever woken up and wondered, why am I still here? That question, even unspoken, lingers in the minds of many older adults. Children, retirement, repetitive routines, friends who are gone. The feeling that the world no longer needs, you can cut deep. And little by little, joy fades, enthusiasm disappears. Life loses its shine. But there comes a moment when all of that can change. And it usually starts with a simple gesture, someone saying, your presence makes a difference here. In that instant, purpose resurges, not as some grand mission, but as a breath of life. As the reminder that yes, you still have a place in this world. When we belong to a community, we're not just another face. We're a part of something. An essential piece of an emotional puzzle. And every small contribution, a piece of advice. A smile, a cake shared on an afternoon gains. Value. Feeling useful isn't vanity. It's a need of the spirit. Emotional fuel. In a real community, exchanges aren't forced. They flow naturally. And there, even in silence, you discover that your presence carries purpose. You're the one who inspires others with your resilience. You're the one who listens without rushing, who remembers important dates. Who shows that aging also means having wisdom to share. And this belonging transforms self-worth. Because it reaffirms that you haven't been forgotten, that your life still matters, and that there's still room for new stories. It's common to see older adults bloom again when they join true communities. They start smiling with their eyes once more. They revisit hobbies, share experiences, engage in social causes. Life reorganizes itself, not because problems disappear, but because now there's meaning in facing them. Belonging also brings responsibility in the best way. It's knowing you can lift someone's spirits. It's knowing your absence will be noticed. It's having someone to rely on, and being someone others can rely on. And the most beautiful part? When you feel you belong, you start taking better care of yourself. You eat better, seek treatment. Move your body, nurture your mind. Because there's a reason, there's a for whom, there's a why. And that, my friend, that changes everything. It's the difference between existing and living. Between passing days and making days count. The purpose born from belonging doesn't need a stage. It happens in the simplicity of everyday life. It's born in the affection of those who wait for you, of those who trust you, of those who, with a simple gesture, show you you're still essential. And you are. Today. Here. Now. The power of being heard. There's something deeply human about wanting to be listened to, not just heard. Truly listened to, with attention, with patience, with presence. And in old age, this longing grows stronger, because over time, the world seems to listen less. The voice of the elderly gets drowned out by the hurried sounds of youth, by automatic opinions, by conversations that don't linger. But within a community, everything changes. There, listening is an act of affection. There, when you speak, someone stops to listen. And listening with the heart is one of the most powerful ways to acknowledge someone's existence. Have you ever felt like your words hit a wall? That your opinions were ignored as if they no longer mattered? That's one of the quietest pains of aging, no longer being consulted, remembered, or considered. And it leaves its mark. People withdraw. They speak less. They trust less. Little by little, they grow silent. But in a welcoming group, that silence begins to dissolve. When an older adult finds a space where they can speak without fear, without interruption, without judgment, something inside them lights up. It's as if saying, I still have something to say. I still matter. And it's true. The accumulated experience, the lessons, the memories, all of it is a treasure that can only be passed on when there's genuine listening. And we're not just talking about deep conversations. Sometimes it's just venting about how you feel, sharing how your day went, recalling a story from the past, talking about what you miss, confiding a pain, or even laughing over something silly. What matters is knowing someone is there, fully listening. And this doesn't just heal the speaker. It heals the listener too. Because truly listening is an exercise in empathy. It's stepping into someone else's world. It's seeing through the lens of someone who's lived longer. It's learning from the wisdom only time can build. Often, community groups work better than any therapy because there are no diagnoses there. Just humanity. No rush. Just quality time. And time is the greatest proof of love. Being heard also strengthens self-worth. It reaffirms identity. It helps older adults remember who they are and what they've overcome. Every time someone listens to their story with respect, that story is renewed. It gains new meaning. It's as if, in the telling, they reclaim their place in the world. And maybe that's the secret to aging with grace. It's not just about health, money, or security. It's about knowing your voice still echoes, that it still touches, teaches, comforts. And that only happens where there's community. Where there's space. Where there are attentive ears and open hearts. If you're part of such a group, cherish it. If you're not yet, seek it. Because there's profound relief in knowing that when you open your mouth, you'll be met. Without hurry. Without distraction. Without judgment. Just with sincere listening. And remember, every life has something important to say. Especially, and most of all, yours. The strength of small shared rituals. Have you noticed how simple moments shine brighter when shared? A morning coffee, a group prayer. An evening walk. Activities that might seem mundane at first glance, but when done with others, become sacred rituals. In old age, these small shared rituals are emotional anchors. They give rhythm to days, create healthy anticipation, and remind us that life goes on with pauses, with gatherings, with human warmth. They help the mind structure time. And help the heart feel part of something greater. Think of a group that meets every week to play dominoes. Or tend a community garden, or simply talk. It doesn't seem like much, but it is, because these gatherings create continuity. And continuity is essential when so much has already changed in an older person's life. When we're part of a group with meaningful rituals, we find reasons to dress up, leave the house, put on a smile. It's the neighbor's good morning that repeats, the smell of cake that always appears on Thursday afternoons, the certainty that at that hour, in that place, you'll be expected, and being expected. That changes everything. It's knowing your absence will be noticed, feeling your presence matters. No longer being invisible. These small rituals also awaken emotional memory. They bring back recollections of family, youth, times when the house was full. And even if the people have changed, the feeling remains, belonging. Shared rituals also build trust. After all, when something happens regularly. The heart relaxes. It knows it can count on that. It's like a scheduled embrace, a safe space within the routine. You don't need grand events for this. Sometimes, it's just agreeing to sit in the sun together at the same time, reading a book chapter, and discussing it later, sharing old stories in a circle. What matters isn't the activity, but who you do it with, and with what intention. In a true community, every small gesture becomes symbolic. The flower someone brings every week, the little song that always plays at the start of meetings, the way one helps another sit, walk, or remember. All this weaves a web of meaning, a silent language of care. And that care becomes emotional health. Because loneliness isn't just about lacking people. It's about lacking connections, and rituals are threads that stitch those bonds. Day after day, presence after presence. You don't need grand setups for this. Need presence, a willingness to participate. Space to let others in, and when everyone does this together, life blossoms, even in the hardest seasons. So if your days have felt too monotonous lately, if they lack spark, meaning, or motivation, start small. Create a ritual with someone, even if it's just a good morning at the same time, or a silent prayer before lunch. That's the beginning of something that can transform not just your day, but someone else's too. Because sometimes, what heals most is knowing that tomorrow someone will be there waiting for you. Aging is not synonymous with loneliness. It doesn't have to be the end of the party or the lights going out. On the contrary, it can be the beginning of the most genuine phase of life. The phase where you no longer need to prove anything to anyone, where what matters is not the rush but the depth, not the number of friends but the quality of the bonds. And those bonds, they only grow when we allow ourselves to belong. You've seen this throughout the video. The effects of loneliness run deep, but they are also reversible. You've seen that healing often doesn't come from medication, but from conversation, connection, and shared routines. You've seen that listening and being heard is more than just a polite gesture. It's an act of care. And that when we're part of something bigger, life regains its meaning, its color, its direction. If you've made it this far, it's because this message touched you in some way. Maybe because you've felt that loneliness at some point, or because you know someone who is going through it right now. And the truth is, we all need a reminder every now and then. You still matter. You still have so much to give. You deserve to be part of a community that values you, embraces you, and listens to you with heart. That's why I'm inviting you now to be part of our community here on the channel. Yes, this is also a group, not in person, but real. Here, you'll find stories, reflections, and guidance that offer comfort, even from a distance. And with every video, you'll see, you are not alone. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click the button. It's your first step toward connecting with others on the same journey. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it. That small gesture could be the beginning of real change in someone's life. And leave a comment below. Have you ever found a group or community that made a difference in your life? Or are you looking for that space now? Your comment might inspire others. And who knows, it might even spark a new friendship right here. Because in the end, aging together is discovering that life only makes sense when it's shared. And that even as time goes by, it's still possible to start again. With more calm, with more wisdom, and above all, with more company.